Did you? Oh, yes. All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Board of Directors meeting to order for the National Valley Open Space Authority. Please call roll.
Director Kennett.
Here.
Director Matthews. Here. Director Chapman. Here. Director Sutherland. Here. Director Alexander. Here. Director Gill, not present.
So much. All right, the first item, we have new staff introductions. No? Huh?
Sorry, I didn't know if Theo was the first one. Directors, Lucas Schaumer, Planning, Design, and Construction Manager. I'd like to provide a warm welcome for Thea Yang, our new Associate Open Space Planner, who's been here about a month now. Thea has a bachelor's degree from University of Melbourne and a master's degree in landscape architecture from Cal Berkeley. And she comes to us from the SF Parks Alliance, which is a nonprofit located in San Francisco, where she was a project manager doing public outreach projects, planning, design, and construction projects on city parks throughout San Francisco. So now I'd like to open it up if Theo would like to say anything. Yeah.
Hello, directors. Am I doing this right? Okay. Like Lucas mentioned, my name's Thea, and I am the new associate open space planner. And my background is in landscape architecture and environmental planning. And I think what like Open Space Authority and then PDC kind of like draw me to be here is like the opportunity to work at very site scale specific site specific design that create experience for people to kind of tell the stories of the site and kind of the nature, and then hopefully through that we can inspire them to also become the stewards for nature and then open space as well. And because my a lot of project that I did in the past is very community based, so I'm also very interested in working with communities on improving public space, and especially with people who might not have the resources, access, or who doesn't usually show up on the planning processes. So I'm very interested working on that as well. And lastly, I just want to share a question that Elizabeth asked me when I first on board. I feel like it's a great question. So she asked me what's my values and what makes me wake up every day and show up at work. And then my answer is I feel like people who have good relationship with nature usually have good relationship with others and with themselves. And then I really believes that. And also I'm type of person that I can't do things that I don't like or I don't resonate with. So I'm just very grateful to find an organization, share the same values and share the same missions. Um, and then also people that I work with every day is super important to me as well. I feel like sometimes it's maybe even more important than the project itself. So I just feel like everyone's very nice and then knowledgeable and then good at their work. So just very happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. I think you will find it very welcoming here. Okay, who's next?
I am next.
Okay, good. Okay.
So it is my pleasure to introduce Dan Chamberlain. He comes to us from MidPenn, but originally he was an Open Space Authority seasonal with us here at the Open Space Authority. So he's a returning employee. He's currently an equipment mechanic operator, starting out as that seasonal, went to MidPenn after us, got a lot of skills there. And he is going to be one of the most critical elements of our department, working with various natural resource projects, working with Lucas in planning and design and construction, is being the equipment mechanic operator. And this will be really important as we grow and look to him to bring a lot of knowledge and ideas that he learned from Mid-Penn, including machinery and other equipment that can be utilized here at the authority to mechanicize and also make it more efficient for us. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dan and he can say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dan Chamberlain. Dirk kind of covered a good portion of it, but I spent about 13 years with Mid-Penn, including my seasonal years, and I learned a great deal from them. And I very much look forward to taking what I've learned there and bringing it to the table for Open Space Authority. And one of the larger reasons why I left Mid-Penn to come to OSA is because of that first year of being seasonal here. That sold me on this line of work and set me on this career path. So I've always had a special place in my heart for Open Space Authority. And some of the things I'm kind of maybe looking at getting out of OSA is different challenges, such as working with specific cattle grazing. I'm not very familiar with that. So I can see that that'll be a learning curve for me and a challenge. I'm looking forward to that. Another idea that I had that I want to do, pursue is maybe build relations a little bit between Open Space Authority and Mid-Penn. I have really good contacts over there, and they're very willing to offer help, support, come up, work with one another to try to get that cohesion a little bit better between the agencies. I think it can't hurt anything. So, that being said, Dave's been a great mentor. I wish he would stick around longer, but he's ready to head out. So, that's it. I'm excited about my career with OSA here. So, thank you.
Welcome. I wanted to say welcome back. Okay, and then last but not least.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, directors. I have the honor of introducing Gina Barreras. She joined us on April 24th, just 1 month ago, as our executive assistant upon the departure and retirement of Joelle Garrettson, whom we'll be honoring a little bit later tonight. Gina has over 15 years of experience working for executive directors, senior vice presidents, and general counsels for various tech companies, managing complex flow of work, calendar management, working for C-suite executives. So we could say she's probably overqualified for being the general manager's executive assistant. But she's come on board and she's hit the ground running here at OSA, supporting many demands for the general manager and the assistant general manager. She jumped right into help at Founders Day on May 9th. She's really a manna from heaven that dropped out of the sky at just the right time. So I want to thank her. And I also want to thank our whole administrative team for making this possible and making her feel so welcome. So with that, Gina, do you want to say a few words to the board?
Hello, directors. I'm Gina Barreras. I do have lots of tech experience. I don't feel that I'm overqualified. This is actually challenging because it's a whole new sector for me that I'm learning. And I love that I'm learning something new and something positive that I can truly feel good about giving back to future generations to preserve, preserve the land for future generations to come, and just thank everyone for a great onboarding so far, and Grace allowing me to ask all my millions of questions. And I'm just looking forward to what's next to come with Open Space.
Welcome, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. All right, so the next item under new business is to appoint director to fill District 6 seat on the Board of Directors of the Open Space Authority for the remainder of the current term.
Hello, directors. Caroline Hernandez, clerk of the board. Tonight, staff recommend for the board to follow the described process and adopt Resolution 2529, appointing a director to fill the District 6 vacancy for the remainder of the current term ending December 4th, 2026. And should the board approve the appointment, an oath of office will be administered, and the new director will assume a place at the dais for the rest of the meeting. Director Potter first indicated his intention to vacate the seat at the board's regular meeting on February 27th, 2025, where he reported upon completion of renovations to his home, he would be moving out of his District 6, in order to rent the property. At the following meeting on March 27th, 2025, your board voted to fill the vacancy left by the passing of Director Flaher, as well as any future imminent vacancies to District 6 by appointment. This board action served as both a cost-saving measure and streamlined the process to avoid disruptions to authority business. At the same meeting, your board created an ad hoc committee comprised of Director Chapman, Director Kennett, and Director Sutherland to review any applications received during the application process for both District 2 and District 6. Director Potter submitted his resignation to the authority on May 5th, 2025, effective that day, and he would no longer be residing in District 6. Staff initiated recruitment on May 6th by issuing a notice of vacancy along with a press release on May 9th. On May 15th, 2025, the authority received the application from Lisana Dominguez. Ms. Dominguez is currently the District 6 representative to the CAC. Her application and resume are in your packet. And the nominating committee met virtually with Ms. Dominguez on Monday, May 19th for an interview. So the process for selection, so staff recommend that the board allow the candidate to come up and speak for 3 minutes. At that time, following that, allow public comment and then bring the discussion back to the board for deliberation. A motion and a second are required, and approval to appoint requires 4 votes from the board. And now I'll turn it back to you, Chair.
At this point, I would like to invite our candidates to share a little bit about herself.
All right, thank you. Good evening, OSA Board of Directors, General Manager Andrea McKenzie, and staff. I'm Lisana Dominguez, and I am deeply honored to express my interest in joining the Board of Directors for Open Space Authority. I grew up in East San Jose, where access to nature wasn't always easy, but it made a big difference when we had it. I've seen how parks and open spaces can be one of the few affordable, safe ways for families to connect, reflect, and enjoy time together. That perspective continues to shape my work today. Today, I bring the same understanding to my work at the Silicon Valley Education Foundation, where I lead efforts to expand access and opportunity for students across historically under-resourced communities. I build strong partnerships with school districts, local trustees, higher education leaders, and nonprofit leaders, especially in East San Jose, to ensure that our systems are more equitable and community-centered. Through my leadership, I've helped convene coalitions and shaped Senate bills to transform our state school funding formula to better serve low-income communities. That kind of deep systems-focused work reflects how I approach all civic engagement, thoughtful, collaborative, and equity-driven. I've also served on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Open Space Authority, and even in that short time, I've been deeply inspired by the professionalism and expertise of the OSA staff and the agency's forward-thinking equity strategies, especially programs that bring nature to communities that face real barriers. I see the Open Space Authority's mission as land stewardships and justice work and healing work. I'm ready to contribute a perspective grounded in racial equity, coalition building, and community voice. Preserving the Coyote Valley is critical, and I also want to ensure families from all across the authority service area, especially those historically excluded, are brought into these preserved spaces. It's not just about protecting land, it's also about making it truly accessible. So thank you for considering my candidacy. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and help the Open Space Authority continue leading the vision, integrity, and equity. Thank you.
Turn my mic on. Thank you, Lisana. At this point, I'll open up for any public comment. Do we have anybody that wishes to address the board?
If there are any members of the public joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand and I will call on you. No, they're not.
Okay. Then at this point, I'd like to open up to the board. The ad hoc committee did have the opportunity to interview Lisanna, and we were very impressed with her resume and qualification. So if there's anybody that wasn't part of that conversation, maybe you have a couple questions or you'd like to ask her.
I'm
Sure,
happy
yeah.
to make the nomination.
Director Matthews, I think, did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say, thank you for applying and, yeah, I look forward to the vote.
I'd like to enthusiastically second.
Yes. Okay, that's
Okay.
that.
Any comments? No? Nope. Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve. To appoint Lisanna Dominguez to the District 6 seat on the Board of Directors for the remainder of the term, with a second by Director Alexander. Oh, sorry, Director Sullivan, I want to look at you and, yeah, okay. Enthusiastically seconded by Director Sullivan. Okay, all right, we can screen. All right,
Director Bennett,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Aye.
Director Chapman,
yes.
Director Sutherland,
Yes.
Director Alexander.
Yes. Welcome. Now you have to leave that seat and come on over and join us. You're no longer in the audience.
Look, do you want, yeah, let's do the oath.
Yes, please.
Okay, you want to raise your right hand?
Now I only had to be the freshman director for one meeting.
Okay, repeat after me. I, Lisanna Dominguez,
I, Lisanna Dominguez,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
With-
or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties about which I'm about to enter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get your signature?
Yay,
Director.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, could we get a picture next to the Open Space Authority? With all the board members?
It's a little while ago, huh? I know.
You don't mind the soul guy.
Missing Director Gill for the flanking. It's kind of nice, you know, there's a little vibe. Okay, congratulations. Here is your official. Right, right. Okay. All right, so this portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody that wishes to address the board?
If there are any members of the public joining us via Zoom who would like to comment on any matter not on the agenda, please raise your hand. Or not. Oh, sorry, I have one. Oh, actually, I think it's Mike Potter.
Ah.
I thank you for unmuting me. I'm navigating from Zoom from my phone. but I just wanted to be the first to congratulate the new director and to thank the board for upgrading the representative for District 6.
It's very strange to hear you from the ceiling, Mike, instead of.
Well, there you go. Get used to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, any other public comment? That's it, okay, all right. Hey, announcement regarding the items to be discussed in closed session will be made prior to closed session.
Good evening, Madam Chair. There are two items on closed session. One is conference with real property negotiator. The other is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, the details of which are on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we will adjourn to closed session. We are back. Do we have any items to report from closed session?
Madam Chair, there's one item. From the conference with General Counsel, existing litigation, Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority versus Andrade, case number 23 CV 426482. The board authorized special counsel to seek appellate relief if necessary. The vote was 6-0. There's one absent board member.
Okay, we will move on to the approval of the minutes. Do we have any public comment on the new approval?
Fair enough.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes moved by Director Alexander with a second by Director Kennett. I thought I'm reading the screen this time. Oh. Let her change the.
Yes, let me add Director Dominguez as a voting member. Give me 1 second.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the April 24th, 2025 meeting minutes by Director Sutherland with a second by Director Kennett. Good.
Director Kennett,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Sutherland,
Yes.
Director Dominguez,
Abstain.
Director Alexander.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Great. With one abstention. Okay, now on to approval of the consent calendars. Anybody wishing to pull an item from the consent calendar?
That would be me.
Okay, what item would you like to pull?
I just like to give a little bit of direction, item C3.
Okay,
And ask staff to reach out to Supervisor Arenas' office about the work being done with the feral pigs. I know that those are a concern right now in her office, and so I think reaching out and just letting her know what we're doing.
I know if we wanted to pull this for any discussion, is there anybody from staff here that could answer any questions on this or not?
Through the chair, I can certainly acknowledge the request, and we are planning to set up a meeting with Supervisor Arenas on other matters as it is, so we can include that in our discussion.
I was also gonna recommend, as I said during my time, and for Councilmember Jimenez, you might want to bring in the city and get Councilmember Campos as well. Because it does affect her area.
Thank you, Walter.
Okay. Okay,
Just a point of order. So are we pulling the item or are we for further discussion?
Well, I just wanted to give some direction to it. I don't know. It's up to you, the best way to move forward.
I think it's fine if you've given your direction. I don't think unless the board wants to pull in further discussion on the item, I think that's fine, and then you can vote on the entire consent calendar.
okay.
As long as Director Sutherland is.
We could vote the other two, do the other one separately, but okay,
Then I'll move approval for the consent calendar.
okay.
I second.
But I thank you for your input, Director Sutherland. Okay, so we have a motion to approve consent item 1 through 3. Moved by Director Sutherland, with a second by Director Alexander.
Director Kennett,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Sutherland,
Yes.
Director Alexander,
Yes.
Director Dominguez.
Yes. Okay, great. That motion passes unanimously. Do we have it? Oh, sorry, I did not ask for public comment on the consent item. None?
There's none.
Okay. New business, okay. First item of new business is to approve a resolution honoring retiring executive assistant Joelle Garrettson. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Good evening, directors. Elizabeth Loretto, Administrative Operations Manager, and I get the privilege of reading this resolution to honor Joelle Garrettson's retirement into the record. Joelle was with the Open Space Authority for just over 14 years as the executive assistant. You'll hear a lot about her accomplishments and her impact in this reso. And now I will slow my pace so that I can really hit the record. Okay, so a resolution of the governing board of the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority honoring Executive Assistant Joelle Garrettson on her retirement from the Open Space Authority. Whereas Joelle is retiring from the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority after over 14 years of dedicated service in the role of Executive Assistant to the General Manager. And whereas Joelle has done an outstanding job of managing the many high-level and competing demands on the General Manager's office, allowing executive leadership to focus on substantive issues and initiatives. And whereas Joelle has excelled at and has been instrumental in scheduling internal and external meetings to advance the authority's mission and the pace and scale of conservation in the Santa Clara Valley. And whereas Joelle has deftly navigated many a scheduling minefield, dodging countless Outlook calendar blocks to ensure that the right people are in the room at the right time to keep our work moving forward. And whereas Joelle has coordinated steering committees for special policy initiatives, including City of San Jose General Plan amendments for Coyote Valley, Santa Clara Coyote Valley Climate Overlay, Climate Smart San Jose, the Santa Clara Valley Agriculture Plan, and more. And whereas Joelle was integral to the acquisition of Mayono-Yakima Coyote Ridge Open Space Preserve in 2015, closing escrow on one of the most complex transactions ever with 8 different grant funders and many conditions, with little experience in real estate or grants, and before the authority had any dedicated real property or grant staff. And whereas Joelle is always up for the challenge, and there was never any task that you could throw her way that was too big or too difficult, she fearlessly jumps right in to figure it out while maintaining a calm and positive demeanor, and quietly saves the day with a lot of grace and without much fanfare. And whereas Joelle has played a big role in building community at the Open Space Authority by organizing many gatherings that give everyone in attendance a chance to connect and enjoy each other's company, usually over some delicious food and drink. And whereas Joelle has been unafraid to keep meetings on track, even stepping into meetings with the general manager to make sure a busy day stays on time. Whereas Joelle was up for any task asked of her, including that one time she went bushwhacking through thickets of poison oak and chaparral on a site visit to a potential acquisition property, despite getting a bit scraped up and having to throw out clothes afterwards because they were stained black from poison oak. She never wanted to turn around or give up, which just represents how she approaches all of her work. And whereas, in addition to her contributions to the authority, Joelle is known for her kindness and generosity to all, especially the animals, where she could always be counted on to provide lots of loves, pets, and belly rubs to her colleagues' dogs. And now, therefore, be it resolved, the board honors Joelle's passion, hard work, and perseverance over the last 14 years. And Joelle is with us this evening and gets to hear any wonderful thoughts or remarks you all have also on her retirement as we send her off into her next adventures.
That is a lovely resolution. It made me smile. Well, did you want to say anything, or do we want to, or should we start giving you accolades as we go?
If I may, through the chair, thank you so much, everyone here, directors, staff, Andrea. This is unreal because the OSA has been such a huge part of my life for so many years in so many different ways. My life has been shaped by the people who work here, the people I work for, the people I work alongside, the direction I've received, I have grown into the person I am because of the people that you are. And that to me means everything. It will be cherished forever. I hope that everything that turns out that you need and want at this agency happens, because everyone is so amazing and works so hard and is so dedicated. I will miss you, but I will carry you with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joelle.
Uh,
I think we will miss you too.
Come back.
Oh,
Stay.
okay.
She will also carry with her to Uruguay a frame
suitcase.
in her suitcase, as well as that Coyote Ridge landscape that she helped protect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Come here, photos. Okay.
Yeah. Can we go in front of this director?
Okay. Thank you. But yeah. With that, any input from the directors, and finally would request approval of the resolution too.
Okay. Before we do the motion, is there anyone that would like to address Joelle?
You're amazing, I tell you, that's the phone line, that's straight. I don't know how you did it, but it could be a great juggling act in any circus.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't get to work with you, but I wish you very good luck and happiness in the future. You're gonna love retirement.
Joelle, you and I scheduled together, so I know exactly what all this means. Congratulations on your retirement, and thank you. Thank you for always being such a pleasure to work with.
That's Joelle from the bottom of my heart. And was, when I came on, you brought me forward and all the scheduling requests and back and forth. You did an amazing job. And I really, really appreciate the dedication you've given to this agency. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
I think you're going to be sorely missed here, but I hope retirement is everything that you hope it is and much, much more.
Congratulations on your retirement, and I'm so bummed I don't get to work with you. Okay, so do we have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the resolution honoring Executive Assistant Joelle Garrettson on her retirement from the Open Space Authority. Moved by Director Kennett with a second by Director Alexander.
Director Kennett,
Yes.
Director Matthews.
Yes.
Director Chapman,
Yes.
Director Sutherland. Yes. Director Alexander,
Yes.
Director Dominguez.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, the board moved very quickly to pass that resolution unanimously, but I just wanted, if I might, just to say just a couple words while Joelle is still here. I thought the resolution that staff crafted was right on the mark. Did an awesome job capturing the contribution of Joelle to the Open Space Authority. But I just wanted to say, when I walked into our previous building on Burnell there 14 years ago, Joelle and I started our working relationship, and we've worked together for 14 years. Many of our partner agencies and organizations outside of the OSA have the high praise for our organization because of how well we treat our partners and how well we plan and treat our partners with respect. I think we've earned that that reputation amongst our partners, and I attribute much of that to Joelle. She's been more than an executive assistant. She's been part of the tapestry of this place, and fair to say she was my right-hand woman. So she's a tough act to fill, tough shoes to fill. So, Joelle, I wish you well in your next life, in another part of the world. And thanks for laying the groundwork for our success. And very, very well deserved accolades tonight. Thanks.
Mark, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Mark Landgraf, Assistant General Manager. I don't know how well I can follow those really kind and very appropriate remarks, but yeah, in the 10 years that I've been here, Joelle has, I mean, obviously from the resolution, we know that she contributed so much to the agency, but for me, primarily did so much scheduling, and as Director Kenneth pointed out, juggling, you know, as a magician, just coming up with ways to move meetings around and find ways to fit in what was needed to get our work done. It was just sometimes unbelievable, and always, as Andrew pointed out, the consummate professional, treating our partners as well as our staff internally with great respect every time there was something that needed to be moved around. So yeah, we will sorely miss you, Joelle. Appreciate your work more than I said, and just wish you well in all of your ventures.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to say, Joelle, the old phrase, you know, iron fist and a velvet glove, makes me think of you and just how easily you moved things along with such poise and grace, but firmly. And as Mark said, as a lot of folks have said, magically making space for meetings to just happen, and you did it so quickly. It was so key to keeping everything moving. Pet parents, they're just, you know, they're the best. Thanks for everything. We'll just move down the line.
Joelle, man, I'm part of the old guard. I've been here, well, you know, from your first day, and just want to say thank you for everything that you've done for myself and for everyone else here at the authority, and for all the community that has benefited from your presence here. And I wish you nothing but the best down south, and hopefully someday I'll get to travel down there and visit you.
Door's always open.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything, Joelle, and congratulations. And you mentioned that you're going to carry OSA with you, and your legacy is going to carry on at OSA as well.
Joelle, you and I have worked together for almost 10 years now, and even before my time here when I was at Post, and I've always just appreciate how willing you are to just jump into like the resolutions of anything and take it on with such grace and joy. And so I'm really going to miss working with you, and I wish you all the best.
Anybody on this side?
I wish we could have had one last goodbye.
Joe, I just want to say, in addition to all the dedication and all the great things that have been said already, how much just joy and fun you brought to the office. It's been a pleasure working with you. You are missed. You will be missed.
Okay. All right. From all of us, thank you. Okay. Moving right along, it's always hard to follow it. So the next item, we are to receive a presentation from Santa Clara County Parks on the Countywide Trails Master Plan. Jennifer is going to lead us off.
Right.
Great. Thank you, Chair, and good evening, directors. Jennifer Peth, Associate Open Space Planner here to introduce Rebecca Coates Muldoon from Santa Clara County Parks. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Some of you, at least 3 of you will remember back in November, we held a presentation from our partners at the Bay Area Ridge Trail Council. So similarly tonight, inviting one of those partners whose synergy helps build that momentum for bringing some of our trail concepts and visions into real life. So one of those, one such example that I wanted to just briefly share, which Rebecca will expand upon, is at Rancho Cañada del Oro Open Space Preserve, where we're currently planning for regional trails in the southern portion, 1,800-acre southern portion of the preserve. That property, that portion of that property was acquired with funding contributions from county parks back in 2008. And that area of the preserve has been identified through the Countywide Trails Master Plan map update as an important north-south regional trail connection. Similarly, identified by the Bay Area Ridge Trail as an important trail connection. And so for some of those of you who may be less familiar, the Bay Area Ridge Trail is envisioned as a 550-mile trail encircling the San Francisco Bay via the ridge lines and hilltops. So, of which 400 miles so far have been completed. So in large part because of the regional value that this trail network will ultimately provide, the Open Space Authority has secured $290,000 in outside funding for the planning and construction of this trail. So with that, I will pass it off to Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening, board members. I'm Rebecca Coates Muldoon. I'm the Countywide Trails Program Manager with the Santa Clara County Parks and Recreation Department. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Countywide Trails Master Plan map update. And I will share both some information about the map update itself, which was completed in December of last year, and then talk a little bit about our partnership and coordination with OSA in that process and more generally around countywide trails and regional connectivity. So to begin, the Countywide Trails Master Plan is a high-level planning document that was created in 1995. It envisions a comprehensive network of trails of countywide significance across Santa Clara County. And it really has this vision for these connections that connect cities to one another, connect between regional parks and open spaces, connect cities to those parks and open spaces, and connects to the northern and southern regions of the county. It includes trails that you're likely familiar with, trails like the San Francisco Bay Trail, Bay Area Ridge Trail, Stevens Creek Trail, Los Gatos Creek Trail, Coyote Creek Trail, and other kind of big long distance connectors across the county. This one is no longer working. That one is also no longer working. Let's use that one. So just a few high-level concepts here. So this plan envisions, it includes trails of countywide significance. So it's not all trails in Santa Clara County. It's not trails, say, within a park or a preserve. It's really those connections between different parts of the county. It includes very high-level route concepts and goals for trail connectivity. So it's not specific on-the-ground alignments. It's really these high-level concepts where those specific on-the-ground alignments get worked out through other planning processes that happen by individual agencies. And it really emphasizes the use of public lands, public parks and open spaces, and really connecting those as a network. It guides the county's work on trails, and it helps the county coordinate with other partners through the region. It's not an acquisition plan for specific properties. Again, this is very high level sort of A to B connections, and then the details of those, kind of get worked out through other processes. And it does set countywide trail priorities in unincorporated areas to guide the county's work. And portions of the plan are part of the general plan. So the map that I'm going to talk about is a piece of the county's general plan that we updated. But again, it does not preempt local trail plans. It's really there to help provide coordination between different jurisdictions. So it does not set trail priorities for cities. It really guides the county's work and helps to provide those interjurisdictional coordination. So the 1995 Countywide Trails Master Plan included a map of high-level route concepts and trails across the county. And this is really what we focused on updating in this effort. So over the past several years, County Parks has worked to update the Countywide Trails Master Plan map to the version that you see here, which I'm going to go into in more detail. So the map update scope was a very focused effort. It was really focused on updating those conceptual trail routes, the regional staging areas in that map, and focusing also on trail reprioritization in the unincorporated county. But it did not include any policy changes or updates to guidelines or other content. It was really kind of this this focused effort to better reflect current planning that's happened since 1995 when this was created. And as I mentioned, parts of this are also in the county's general plan. So again, very focused update to that Countywide Trails Master Plan map, which sets that high-level vision for regional trail connectivity in the general plan. But again, no changes to the general plan language, including any policies. As part of the map update, we had essentially 4 categories of changes that occurred through this process, which I'm going to go into in more detail. So the first of these was integration with active transportation planning. So that 1995 map included off-street trails, on-street bikeways with parallel trails. And since the Countywide Trails Master Plan was developed, a number of county-wide active transportation planning efforts have taken place, including VTA's Countywide Bicycle Plan, VTA's Bicycle Superhighway Implementation Plan, and now the County Roads Department's Active Transportation Plan. So with all of these countywide efforts happening, we work to better integrate the Countywide Trails Master Plan with those county-scale active transportation plans. And what that meant was that this really shifted on-street bikeway determination to those transportation agencies. So it removed most of those on-street bikeways from the Countywide Trails Master Plan map. Most of those routes are still reflected in other plans, but really wanted to focus this plan on those off-street trails and to create that off-street trail connectivity where the other agencies that are really focused on that active transportation piece are really doing that planning for those on-street routes. There are a couple of places in the map where there is still some overlap. So in South County, there's a few key corridors that are kind of east to west where there's not really a functional off-street trail route. So there are 3 places where we did keep an on-street route. And then there's a few other small locations where the map includes an on-street route that's a piece of a longer off-street trail consistent with that local jurisdiction's planning. The second bucket of changes that happened were trail updates and realignments in the map. So since the map was created in 1995, trails have been built on the ground. Cities and other districts have updated, their trail plans. New trail plans have been created. New public lands have been acquired. There's, been many that have been acquired in OSA's jurisdiction and others. And new partnership opportunities are available related to trails. So, the map update really reflected all of these changes while retaining that core vision of the Countywide Trails Master Plan. The third category of changes were adding a series of trails to the map that meet the criteria for countywide trails in the Countywide Trails Master Plan. So this included adding 12 connector trails as well as 1 sub-regional trail, which is the Mount Umunhum to the Sea Trail. And then the fourth category of changes were modifications to the areas of evaluation for regional staging that are identified in the map. So we worked with VTA to add 11 light rail, train, and BART stations that are very, very close to either existing or conceptual trail routes as areas of evaluation for regional staging to look at in the future for, can these support the trail network and that transit to trails connectivity. It also removed 3 areas of evaluation that are now within parklands because really the focus of these regional staging areas is areas that are outside of the Parks and Open Space Network. And it did keep Gavilan College and Evergreen College as areas of evaluation. I mentioned that the map update also included reprioritization of trails within the unincorporated county. So within the city's jurisdictions, the cities set their own priorities. Those are reflected in the map update document for reference, but it's really up to cities, and those priorities change through planning and budgeting and other processes. In the unincorporated areas, the trails were reprioritized based on the prioritization framework that's in the Countywide Trails Master Plan, which tends to favor more urban trails, trails that serve more people, as well as trails through existing public lands. And the Countywide Trails Master Plan also acknowledges that trail development is opportunity-based. So, as conditions change, as opportunities arise, other trails may become higher priorities for county work, which is really what this sets priorities for. And so those priorities may shift. So through this prioritization process, 5 high priority projects were identified for county work moving forward. So this process of the map update started in 2022 and included extensive stakeholder, partner, public outreach. We met directly with all of the other jurisdictions in Santa Clara County and neighboring counties and others that are affected by or that implement pieces of this. We met with other major stakeholders. We presented to 11 different city bicycle pedestrian advisory committees and other advisory bodies as an informational item. Held public meetings at the county, both in person and virtual, presented to the Parks and Recreation Commission, and then developed a series of online feedback tools as well, including an interactive map where you could both leave comments on the map specifically, as well as provide more general feedback on the effort, and a survey and other tools. And publicize this all through mailing, social media, other notifications, newspaper articles, variety of forums. So the final map update was adopted by the County Board of Supervisors in December of 2024. So the map is now updated in the county's general plan. The map and the map update document are also available on Santa Clara County Parks website. And the PDF map is the official map adopted by the Board of Supervisors. We are at the staff level in the process of creating an interactive GIS map that will be more sort of public interfacing. It will be the unofficial version. So as trails are updated on the ground, we'll continue to maintain that data and be able to have that kind of changing information available as well. So with that, I'm going to share just a little bit about the partnership work and coordination that County Parks and OSA have been doing related to this map update and other countywide trails work. So we had very close coordination with OSA staff regarding the Countywide Trails Master Plan map update. Really wanted to make sure that it reflects OSA's preserve acquisition since 1995 and current planning for trails and trail connectivity within those preserves. And a lot of the trail alignment updates that we did in coordination with staff support conceptual future regional connectivity at OSA's preserves. So for example, Diablo Foothills Preserve was brought into the Countywide Trails Network as part of this process to create a conceptual trail route through there. There were alignment adjustments. For example, the West Valley Trail now goes through Tilton, the Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve, and the Tilton Open Space Regional Reserve. So there's a number of places where Maya New Yakima is now reflected in here, and the Bay Area Ridge Trail that is open and planned at that site. So really wanted to make sure, that we're reflecting this integration of OSA's preserves into the network. And many of OSA's preserves are also near county parkland. So, not just in the high level planning phases, but there's also partnership opportunities as we think about implementation moving forward. We're next door neighbors in many places in terms of the lands that we own and manage. And so, we'll continue to work together on those opportunities as well. Two of the conceptual trails that were added to the Countywide Trails Master Plan map connect OSA preserves with other regional parks and open space lands. So the Loma Prieta Trail, which you see on your left, would connect conceptually Rancho Cañada del Oro Open Space Preserve with Sierra Azul Open Space Preserve and Mount Umunhum, as well as connecting to the Mount Umunhum to the Sea Trail, which is that sub-regional trail that I mentioned earlier that MidPenn is working on. The other conceptual trail that was added that connects OSA's preserves is the Coyote Valley Trail, which would connect through Coyote Valley, kind of north-south, connecting Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve and Tilton up to Santa Teresa County Park and through other, or adjacent to other OSA lands in that area as well. And again, these are all conceptual routes. No on-the-ground planning is taking place at this time. So this is all very high-level A to B connectivity. As Jennifer mentioned, one of the really exciting things that is coming up is related to Rancho Cañada del Oro. So as part of the Countywide Trails map update, working with Bay Area Ridge Trail Council and OSA and other partners, one of the biggest shifts in trail alignments was a shift in the alignment of the Bay Area Ridge Trail in South County, away from Summit Road and through a network of parks and open spaces to really leverage those public land acquisitions and to connect the dots on those public lands. So one of the really exciting things about that is that we are now in partnership able to open or to dedicate 14 miles of Bay Area Ridge Trail this coming week. So it's a partnership between OSA, County Parks, and the Bay Area Ridge Trail Council. We'll be dedicating through Calero and through Rancho Cañada del Oro. It's existing trail, but it will become part of this regional trail that Jennifer mentioned spans, all the way around the Bay Area. So the dedication is coming up on May 30th, and we'll be having a nice public open event on May 31st at the Rancho San Vicente entrance of Calero. So if you know anyone who wants to come out and celebrate the trails, it's a great time to do so. And then also, as Jennifer mentioned, a lot of the work that OSA is doing really supports this broader countywide trail connectivity. So, in particular, the trail planning work that's happening at Rancho Cañada del Oro Open Space Preserve, kind of on the southern end of the preserve, directly feeds in from that trail, the 14 miles of trail we just talked about, and continues it south. Continues it south towards Uvis Road, continues it south towards other parks and open spaces, further south, and is a really great planning effort to support that long distance connectivity. And of course, our two agencies have many other planning partnerships that are ongoing. We collaborate on a regular basis around a number of different things related to trails and other areas. So we do, joint acquisitions, we do joint trail planning. So for example, at Tilton, we're working together on kind of what that shared vision looks like for regional trail connectivity and, open space and conservation uses kind of all together in one area. We're participating in the Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan that OSA is leading. And are working with OSA staff both on that planning effort as well as many other planning efforts that are happening in Coyote Valley with other partners, the Peninsula Open Space Trust, the City of San Jose, the County Roads Department, and making sure that we have really active ongoing coordination with these other entities so that we can work together and really reflect that larger vision for both trail connectivity, for conservation, for wildlife, for open space uses, and to kind of integrate our planning efforts and to make sure we're sharing information about different projects and opportunities together. So with that, I will end. I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you. At this point, I'll open it up. And then my colleagues have any questions?
So with the tiny URL that's there, would that be the place to go and read more about the high priority projects or the conceptual trails?
Yes. Let me see if I can get back to that for a moment. So this will take you directly to the County Parks website or the webpage on countywide trails, which includes both the map itself as well as the map update document, which explains kind of all of those, high priority projects and the list of trails and kind of background information about the map update itself. You can also find it, through parkhere.org is our website at a high level, so you can always go there and find the information as well.
Dr. Matthews.
Yes, that was a good, thorough presentation. You mentioned that you removed some trails that were on the streets. Does that mean that you identified off-street trails to get from point A to point B?
So in many cases, those on-street bike routes were really truly sort of, on-street routes connecting maybe through a city, but weren't necessarily always serving kind of that larger vision. And I would say in many cases, so in looking at the map, we are retaining the connectivity, of off-street trails kind of wherever possible. And so some of those did get alignments shifted or other things to make sure that connectivity is still there. I will say, most of those on-street routes still exist, right? In other plans, cities are working on them, county roads, VTA. So, they're not necessarily going away in this process. It's more that the planning for them and, specifically where they would be located and what classification they would be, the design features, all of that is really up to other jurisdictions that focus on those issues.
So you remove them from your trails map, but they still remain, there's still pedestrian areas where people can walk, even if it's in an urban area.
Generally speaking, they are, most of them are still reflected in other planning documents. I would say, the County Roads Department is in the process of creating the first active transportation plan for Santa Clara County right now, which will be going to the board shortly. So, that plan, we worked really closely with them to make sure that those plans dovetail together so that County Roads is really doing that high level planning for where those routes should ultimately be for the on-street routes. And then this plan really focuses then on the off-street routes so that we kind of just teased them apart a little bit to better, integrate sort of who is doing what.
I see. Thank you.
Questions? No? Thank you, Rebecca. That's an excellent presentation. I know one of our former board members was very interested and followed this and was always bringing this up. Make sure that, she was commenting. That was Director Annabelle. Yeah, so that was one of her keen interests in doing it. So thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Did we have any public comment?
You're done.
Next item is to accept the preliminary engineer's report for District 1, declaring its intention to levy an annual assessment and directing that a public hearing be held to accept comments on the report prior to the renewal of open space and maintenance district number 1.
Good evening, directors. Justina Teen, Fiscal Services Officer. At the March 13th meeting, the board approved the resolution to direct the preparation of the preliminary engineer's report for District 1. And tonight we're presenting the report as prepared by SCI Consulting Group. And staff recommends that the board reviews and accepts the preliminary engineer's report. The final engineer's report will be presented at a public hearing, and that's scheduled for June 12th. Sorry. Oh, and yes, staff recommends that the board reviews and accepts the preliminary report.
And that concludes the report.
Yes. It's usually a very quick item each year. Sorry. I'll
Okay,
Yeah,
so with that, is
I'll move that. I did read it, and it's all that.
Don't worry, my next item will be longer.
there goes my screen. Okay.
Right, Director Kenneth.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, do we take public comments?
No, we did not take public comment, no. We were trying to move just as quickly as we were. Okay, is there any public comment on that?
There's none.
Okay, all right. So now we have a motion to accept the engineer's report, moved by. Why did it say waiting? All right, who moved this?
Director Kenneth?
Director Kennett moved it, okay.
And then seconded by Director Matthews.
Waiting. I know, see, it's waiting, yeah, yours is different, her screen's different than my screen, okay, that's weird, okay, all right. Second, okay, all right,
Director Kenneth?
Yes.
Director Matthews?
Yes.
Director Chapman?
yes.
Director Sutherland?
Yes.
Director Alexander?
Yes.
Director Dominguez?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously, all right.
Thank you.
Screen clear. Right. All right, so. There we go. So the next item is to receive Q3 financial and work plan update ending March 31st, 2025. This is a much meatier item now, right?
A little bit. It's a lean, but it's not that skinny. Good evening, Directors. Justina Teen, Fiscal Services Officer again. Tonight, we're reporting on the third quarter of the fiscal year 24-25. First section of the work is the work plan status update. And by the end of the third quarter, and that runs from January 1st of 2025 to March 31st, 2025. The authority honored the life and service of District 2 Director Mike Flaher. We also had some housekeeping in which we selected Director Chapman and Director Alexander to return as chair and vice chair. We also had some selections in CAC as well as EPOC, Expenditure Plan Oversight Committee. And we awarded contracts to CMG Landscape Architecture and HT Harvey and Associates for our CV Camp Conservation Area Master Plan. We also completed the acquisition of 141 acres of the middle portion of Coyote Valley, along with the Fisher Creek, which was along the Fisher Creek corridor on Santa Teresa Boulevard, south of Bailey Avenue. And we received a grant award in the amount of $250,000 from FEMA. But we were awarded that money. We just haven't received it yet. So we are unsure at this time. Yeah, it wasn't canceled per se, but this was to address cybersecurity risk. So it was one of our grants that we were quite proud of because it was first of our kind. Or for the agency. Usually it's acquisitions and capital improvements. And then the second section is our usual profit and loss statement, as well as the balance sheet. And by March 31st of 2025, the authority expended a little over 10.5 million. That's about 56% of the approved budget for the fiscal year. More details are available in the packet in the exhibits, and I'm available to answer any specific questions about any of the account line items. And then the last section of the quarterly report, as required by the agency's investment policy, the monthly statements are provided to the board on at least a quarterly basis. And as of the end of the third quarter, the market value was approximately 15.2 million. We incurred about a little over 4,000 in management fees with Chandler Investment advisors, and overall, the portfolio is generating a average yield to maturity rate of 4.03%. That was up from 3.35 last quarter. And just wanted to make a note that while the credit quality that's reflected here is we have our US Treasuries that we're holding, they were the AAA. The board may be aware of the recent downgrade by Moody's, where they downgraded the US government's credit rating. So we had communications with our investment advisor. They also released the communications to all their clients as well. They expressed that this decision was more of, a question of not, when versus if kind of thing. It's more of the rationale that it was centered around the nation's fiscal debt, the increase in the interest payments, yields on the long-term end, the 20 and 30-year treasuries are now moving above 5%. In general, yields for treasuries that are 6 months and longer, they're also kind of slowly making their way upward. But the reaction in general is kind of a little slightly muted. Other securities that we're holding, such as the supranationals, the agency CMBS, the asset-backed securities, those are all maintaining their AAA ratings. It's only the US Treasuries as well as some of the agency treasuries that are showing that AA1 moving forward. So overall, the downgrade kind of served more as a formal acknowledgement to the longstanding kind of fiscal concerns that investors have had. And it wasn't exactly a trigger for significant market disruption or anything like that. In this report, the March 31st, it's still showing the high quality, but overall, in the next subsequent quarters, the board may begin to see a shift slightly lower in the portfolio's quality. But again, despite that, it is still within compliance with our investment policy, with what we are able to invest in. And Chandler also still stands that despite the downgrade, the treasuries are still a safe security to invest in. And I'm wondering if the board has any question, because that does conclude my quarterly update.
I think this is a follow up on Director Kenneth's question. Any other monies that we've been promised are in limbo, or is there anything that we are unsure about?
I can defer that to Megan Dreger.
Sure, yeah, so we have two in federal grants in particular. One of them, which is the Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve, the accessible trail. That was an earmark, and as far as what we've heard, it's on track. It's a little slow right now. We're moving the project along. Right now, we're waiting for NEPA, and then construction will be next year. It's the cybersecurity one. It's the only one we've so far heard that it's definitely impacted. What they've told us is that it's paused for review. So they're distinguishing that from frozen, or that it hasn't been taken away. Other agencies have completely lost funding. So we're still hopeful that when they do that review, they will reinstate the money, but we haven't heard yet.
Okay. And anything about the Coastal Commission, that money is?
The Coastal Conservancy, that one is still coming. Yep, we have for the CB camp, a grant with them, still going strong and wrapping that up. The Prop 4 money, looking ahead. We've been starting to have meetings with them to go through what that process is going to look like to get that money. That's the $25 million for Coyote Valley Conservation Program area. And that is still in place.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Director Sutherland.
On page 7, there's that graph like this. It shows, the benchmark of 75%. So I had a question because you're almost, the spending is almost at 50%. So where's the additional funds? Do you anticipate that they're all going to be used up in the fourth quarter, or are there projects that were beside?
So it depends. So typically the benchmark, how I measure it is we have a large chunk of our budget that's actually recurring on a very fairly even cycle. Every payroll benefits, utilities, they're pretty like, flat each quarter. It stays the same. What fluctuates is large spending like construction, capital projects, acquisitions. They would come in a wave, in a tsunami, and then infrequently. I cannot predict which quarter. It's not evenly distributed. And so that the 75% benchmark is kind of like the best estimate of, as in just even spending, third quarter, 75%. So currently, yes, we are at about 6%, so we're underspending at that rate. And it could also just be due to, again, some projects, perhaps the spending, the billing for invoicing for some of the projects have slowed down. It could be very well that by the end of the fiscal year, we would be under budget, depending on the status of varying projects.
Is that because some projects may not be moving forward?
It would be continuing into the next fiscal year. It would just be that it kind of shifts, the spending has shifted. Yeah.
See?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think I answered my question about the urban open space grants. Those are just the ones that still have a balance, correct?
Correct.
And finally, on the election and ballot costs, the money set aside is $715,000. I believe it was only $8,700 that was needed. And can you speak about the strategy for the balance of the 750, what you normally do with that?
So typically any unspent fund gets put back into carryover. And then that would then, be available for subsequent years.
For subsequent election.
Yes, yeah,
Or whatever.
yes.
Yeah.
As in, the board would then approve a new updated budget for the next fiscal year on how to spend that carryover.
But we do have elections every
Every other year,
so
correct.
We have to
Yep.
have money and some kind of pocket for that,
Mhm.
right?
Yes,
Perfect. That answered my question.
awesome.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. This item was informational, not action needed. Thank you.
All right. Now, we are on old business. This is to receive a report from the Financial Sustainability Ad Hoc Committee to explore feasibility of a June 2026 funding measure. Mark?
Good evening, directors. Andrea McKenzie, General Manager. This evening, thank you, Ivy. You're receiving a report from staff on the status of our Financial Sustainability Ad Hoc Committee and feasibility work we're doing to explore a June 2026 funding measure. We're going to be asking that you direct staff to return to your board at the next meeting on June 12th with additional updates or recommendations on next steps. But there's no resolution associated with this item tonight. So just to start off here, as I said, before you is a progress report from staff and the Financial Sustainability Ad Hoc Committee on the exploration of a funding measure for June 2026. Since our last presentation to your board on this item at the February 27th board meeting, the ad hoc committee has continued to meet with staff to discuss the authority's growing revenue needs. And we discussed a potential funding measure and different approaches to structuring a finance mechanism that would be recommended to the full board. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. Okay, so tonight we're going to give a briefing to the board on a few items, a brief recap from your April board meeting, some stakeholder outreach and public education updates, an analysis of past expenditures for Measure Q and Measure T, which your board has brought up to us a couple times, other potential funding measures that are being considered out in the community, and then some next steps. And with that, I will turn it over to Mark, and he can do his own slides.
Good evening, directors. Mark Landgraf, Assistant General Manager. So I'll give this brief recap of our April meeting. In part for our brand new director, but also as a recap, a refresher for all of us. So we wanted to review what took place at that April meeting on this item. So we talked about the growing demand for the authority's work to protect and manage natural and agricultural lands so they can help buffer communities from the impacts of wildfire, drought, flood, and extreme heat. So they can provide fresh local food sources for recreational activities that serve a growing number of visitors, and of course for wildlife and the preservation of nature. The authority has growing responsibilities on more lands with greater urgency, which translates to a need for increased dedicated revenue to support operations, management, and stewardship of open space lands on behalf of the public. We presented graphs illustrating our forecast over the next 15 years, demonstrating the need for new revenue, along with projections provided by our expert consultants, revenue that could be generated by a building square footage tax at 1.5, 2, and 2.5 cents per square foot of developed area per parcel. Projections showed the owner of an average sized home would pay $32 per year at a rate of 2 cents per building square foot. Representatives of EMC Research presented results of a voter survey completed in March, showing that while initial response to a potential ballot measure proposing a 1.5 cent or 2.5 cent per building square foot tax with a split sample in the survey, that response is at about 50%. With further information that includes clarification about the cost to the average homeowner and the benefits of the measure would bring, those numbers went up to roughly 60%. The survey also showed significant ongoing tax sensitivity and uncertainty about the near-term future of the economy. Staff provided a summary of ongoing efforts to reach out to stakeholders, as well as increasing our communications to the public about the benefits of nature and what the authority is doing to bring those benefits to its constituents. A further update on outreach and education will be provided shortly in this presentation tonight. Staff also highlighted the feedback received from your board, our CAC, and other stakeholders about the draft expenditure plan. The feedback included questions about how funding from a new measure would be spent, which suggested to staff that we provide a clear summary of expenditures from our current Measure Q and Measure T revenue. We have an update on that expenditure analysis for you tonight, as well as the general manager had indicated earlier. Finally, staff recommended your board request staff to return at this May 22nd board meeting with further updates and next steps. With those updates and next steps, we start with an update on our outreach and education efforts. Next slide, Mark. Thank you. So being cognizant and respectful of the tax sensitivity we know is omnipresent and which was reinforced by results from the voter survey, staff, with help from our consultants, have been reaching out to representatives of various sectors, starting with the business community, but which will also include the health sector, education, conservation partners, etc. The feedback we receive will inform the tax instrument and rate we are considering, and will also inform any other provisions that may be warranted. For instance, we do know that incorporation of a low-income senior exemption that last year's amendments to our Enabling Act allowed us to incorporate, that those would be well received, and so that's a provision we intend to include in the measure. On the public education front, our communications team has been consultants to significantly increase the reach of our various communications channels in a number of ways. We're providing messaging through paid ads and posts on social media, doing search engine optimization so that keywords result in people being more likely to find our agency website, and expanding our already strong ethnic media presence. Shown on the slide are a few examples of recent posts and ads. So these are the ones down at the bottom on the right, not the side on the left, with much more to come. Key to this effort is that our consultants are closely tracking analytics from these digital communication mechanisms so we can refine our usage of images, of wording, messages, so that we can have confidence that our communications are increasingly clear, well understood in many languages, and get to the point of what we're trying to say. So that analytics tracking and refinement on an ongoing basis over the next many months. With that, Andrea, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. We've been very grateful for feedback on the draft expenditure plan and the funding measure exploration overall from your board, from the CAC, and from a group that we call a kitchen cabinet of advisors, community leaders that we've been talking to about our plans. Some of the feedback included questions about how funding from a future funding measure would be spent. And staff has been working hard on trying to take an approach to this that could inform that question of how future funding would be spent. So the best way for us to give a good impression about future funding is to provide a summary of how the authority spent Measure Q and Measure T funds over the last decade to provide benefits to our community, kind of a promises made, promises kept approach. Staff are also preparing a collateral piece likely to include a pie chart summarizing expenditures by category over that period that will be very useful to clarify how future funds would be spent and to build trust that the authority is spending precious tax dollars as promised. The collateral piece is still under construction, but we do have some information to share. And we've asked our Conservation and Strategic Partnerships Manager, Megan Drager, to present this research that we've just completed. So with Megan.
Great, thank you. Good evening, directors. As she mentioned, we, based on that feedback and the interest in showing how we've spent that funds, we went through this analysis. What we did was take all the spending that we used, either Measure Q or Measure T dollars, and we put it into these categories that I'll go through, just to get a sense of roughly how it's spent it looking back 10 years as an indicator of future spending based on that draft expenditure plan. So starting from the right, the biggest chunk, that dark blue, is the category protection of natural and working lands. So that was 37% of all spending went into that category. That category includes, of course, a lot of acquisitions in Coyote Valley, in the Pajaro area and other areas. And it, again, is the biggest chunk of funds. The orange, the next biggest there at the bottom, is the restoration and stewardship for community resilience category. And in this category, we included things like one-time restoration projects, like the Fisher Creek riparian habitat restoration, Spreckles wetland enhancement project, things like that. But it also includes a lot of the ongoing stewardship of the land that it's not a one-time expense, it's ongoing. So things like invasive plant management, integrated pest management, and vegetation and fuels management, and all that land management work that goes into making sure that our lands are healthy and taking good care of them. The next one, new trail facilities. In that category, that includes some public access work, like the new Mayana Yapma facilities, for example, the trail parking area, that sort of thing, was spent. That's 14% of the total. The next three, the smaller groups, the light blue is the urban grant program, which I'll talk more about in the next slide. But that is 7% of the total showing here. And just one thing to note, that 7% here, but again, this is based on spending. There are still some grants, as Kathy was asking a moment ago, where they're in process, so they haven't asked for the funds yet. The purplish, sort of purple color, is in the environmental education category, and that includes programming, events, and other public awareness efforts. And finally, the green is the administration and governance category. This includes a variety of things related to transparency and oversight. It includes costs associated with the expenditure oversight committee, parcel tax engineering services, things like that. It also includes some general programmatic work that supports the projects and objectives of the expenditure plan overall. As I've mentioned many times, but we've been very successful in bringing in grants and other outside funding. So a couple things to note while we have this slide up is during this roughly decade of Measure Q spending, where we got all of this work done, we accomplished a lot. We brought in almost exactly the same amount of money in grants, so it basically doubled the amount of money that Measure Q brought in. And that, again, is just the grants. We also had partner contributions and other outside funding that leveraged it even further. We've been really successful at leveraging our funds. However, I'll note that most grant funds are really focused on capital projects, and even within that, often only on the construction phase. And what that means when you're looking at a chart like this is that it's the categories, the blue, protection of natural and working lands, which is acquisitions. That's something we can get a lot of grant funding for, that's eligible, as well as the green, the new trail facilities. Again, big capital one-time expenses for like a new trail. And there is grant funding for that when we're able to secure that. It's the other categories, and in particular, I'll draw attention to the orange one, the restoration and stewardship for community resilience. There are some one-time costs in there, some restoration projects, but the bulk of it is that ongoing work, which most of that outside funding does not cover. And so as our costs go up, as we own more lands, that's a category that will get bigger relatively for our funds needed. Wow, it's like magic. I look up and I say, what's the next slide? And as I mentioned, just wanted to call attention to the urban grant program during this same time period. This has been a really exciting program. We've awarded grants all throughout our jurisdiction, 74 grants totaling $5.6 million. But turning to the impact in terms of those Measure Q, Measure T dollars, with that money, that 5.6 million, we have funded 28 park, trail, and other capital projects. And those are things that are out there in the public that people can go to anytime. So the impact is ongoing. So in addition to those capital projects, we've also funded projects that directly serve more than 200,000 people and 100,000 youth through programs, events, creek cleanups, all kinds of things like that. So we're really proud of that work.
All right, thanks, Megan. So I wanted to give an overview of some other potential measures that we are aware of. There, of course, could be more under consideration, but wanted you to be aware of these that we have on the list. So the Valley Transportation Authority, VTA, presented to their board at the May 1st meeting on a voter survey, also performed by DMC Research, which is the same firm that we've been using. And that voter survey was done in April. From that survey, they said 70% of respondents say there's a great need for more funding for transportation, but there's only 57% support for either a 1/8 cent or a 1/2 cent sales tax for combined VTA, BART, and Caltrain. So VTA pointed out in their presentation to their board that they're looking at either 2026 or 2028. And in 2026 didn't specify whether they're looking at primary or general election. Caltrain is looking at a sales tax as well, but in addition to that, also a 5 cent per building square foot parcel tax. And I want to point out that VTA is doing their voter surveys and looking at measures that would be in combination with other transportation agencies around the Bay. Caltrain is looking at theirs. I imagine other transportation agencies around the Bay are looking at theirs as well. But if there's going to be something comprehensive that includes Santa Clara County, my guess is that it would probably be combined. They'd probably join forces, especially if there's a sales tax involved, then they pretty much have to. Other considerations that we've heard of, and you're probably aware that the city of San Jose is considering for their parks a possible measure in 2026. There's an article in San Jose Spotlight not long ago that they were doing their feasibility analysis and been considering a 1 cent per building square foot tax for that. And we're not currently aware of a housing measure, but as I believe you know, there was a regional housing bond measure originally slated for the November 2024 ballot that got pulled just a few months prior. And it's very possible that those efforts will go back to considering another measure in 2026 or.
Mark, can I ask for clarification on BTA? Is that to renew their 8% sales tax, or would it be a new one?
Through the chair, my understanding is it's a new one.
Oh, wow, okay.
All right. With that, back to you, Andrew.
Yeah, so I'll just wrap up by saying, we're continuing to do our feasibility analysis, principally on the tax rate and tax mechanism with our experts. We're continuing, the outreach and, education efforts with multiple sectors. And we'll be bringing reports back to your board at the next several meetings. So with that, I think we are done with this item. Happy to turn the mic back over to you.
Thank you. I like the approach about trying to wait and gather as much information as possible, you know, so that we're fully prepared if we do decide to do something. The one comment I want to make, I don't know who said it, I'm going back and forth, promises made, promises kept. I really like that, because when looking at the pie chart, you know, I was kind of going on, looking at the notes going. So we've done an extraordinary amount. But my one question was, is staff time interspersed in each one of those areas, or is it more under the admin and governance?
Through the chair, good question. It's a little bit complicated. It's all over the place, but for the most part, any project, whatever the expense is, whether it's staff time or a hard cost, gets put into the category that's appropriate. So there's staff time kind of located throughout that pie chart.
Okay, that question, that's kind of what I thought when I first looked at it. Wow, that's only that, staff time, that usually the biggest piece of the pie, right? Is that, but I thought, you know, that was a good way to look at it. My only one comment, in trying to, we live and breathe this stuff, but when you have the idea of restoration and stewardship for community resilience, that might be a little hard for the community to digest on what that means. Yeah, they're probably, what the heck are you talking about? So, you know, that was just my suggestion. I think, you know, the National Working Lines, I think people understand what that is. Trail facilities, pretty self-explanatory, urban grant. You know, and even maybe, you can tell I get into this stuff, this, you know, it's fine. Maybe an overview too of the areas in San Jose where the urban grants covered, right? So it's showing the different districts, you know, that we operate.
We have a really wonderful map that's on our website now. Although I believe, Megan, it combines both urban grants and the 20%. But the symbols where grant monies have been spent in the community, I think it's like a little tree or an oak leaf or something, and they're all over the place. But we can probably tease out which are just Measure Q and Measure T. But it's a pretty impactful map just to show how we're spreading the wealth around.
Yeah, my point, going back to promises made, promises kept, is that you can show in the pie chart substantially that the money that we are using is being spent on properties that people can see, feel, touch, and especially the urban grant programs, right? Those are things that, you know, people are utilizing every day. And so citywide, you're getting that outreach from us and showing that impact of the money spent. I'm trying to build, you know, I'm trying to build a sales pitch here, I'm telling you. I like that part because I think that's something that the voters really connect with.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, if I may add, in response to your earlier comment too about, you know, restoration, stewardship, community resilience, those might be things that are hard for the public to understand. That's the beauty of the public education work that we're doing and expanding currently, because we can put all those messages out there and see how people respond to them. Those are embedded in the banners and the ads and the posts. And you know, we can talk about not necessarily community resilience, but when we talk about a buffer to wildfire, that tends to get a lot more.
I think they get that part, yeah.
People understand that, right? And water resources, you know, people want clean water and clean air, and those kinds of things. So that will be continued on an ongoing basis to gather data and information about what messages really resonate with people.
Great, thank you. Okay, you give up my time here, so anybody else have some comments? And I'm really looking forward to the new directors, your feedback and what you do this.
Just, for the 10% piece with the admin and governance, my first thought was, that's overhead. But it was very clear from your comments that it's way more than that. So I hope that you can give examples like you gave us, because I think that will help people understand what that piece is for. And then for I had the same thought that you did about the restoration and stewardship, but I think just understanding restoration and management of the land is something that I think most people would get. Oh yeah, you have all this land, you have to manage it. You know, people are coming to visit it. You have to keep it safe, wildfires. So yeah.
I had a question in regards to, and I believe I was in the CAC meeting on Monday when you went through this, and you had shown a timeline of the previous measures when they passed. Do you have a sense of how many additional measures were on the ballot when QRT were passed?
Through the chair, yeah, good question. No, I don't. We can, I think it's a very good question, though. We can do some research on that, especially put our consultants to work on that. But so you're talking about the timeline of the past 10 years or so, where we had polling data for Measure Q, Measure T, and then the times in between.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how many measures were on the ballot and the voter turnout at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've made your case so well over the years, it's hard to try to think of ways you can improve it, improve your message, but I didn't hear in this particular presentation, the leveraging, the partnerships, and the amount of other resources that Open Space Authority has leveraged and maximized and duplicated. And I know you'll say that at some point, but that's coming to mind is all the partnerships and the money that's, the money that's leveraged from all around us.
Yeah, thank you, Director Matthews. I think Megan touched on it, and she's been crafting our message that we use with a lot of stakeholders. That for every dollar of local tax, we bring in $3, sometimes $4 of outside funding. But again, as Megan said, that's principally for capital expenditures. The ongoing care and management of the growing system of lands has to come from our flat parcel tax, which is one of the big reasons we want to go back out. Yeah.
Megan, you said one thing that caught my attention when you kind of almost like 50%, you know, that we're leveraging that outside money. That's significant. Nobody can say that.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So there were roughly the same amount, the amount of spending of all Measure Q, all Measure T in 10 years. We've brought in that same amount in grants. So we can work on better graphics to kind of bring it into the story so that it's not so separate the way it is right now. So that's something we'll continue to work on. I think we'll probably be in that collateral piece that was mentioned. And again, that's only the grants. We also have partner contributions and all that other work when we work with folks going in together, for example, on acquisition. That isn't always reflected in the grant funding.
No, I don't.
And to just follow up, that's always been the biggest challenge for nonprofits. When I worked in the nonprofit room, was you can't get money for staffing, you can't get money for administration. They want to see the bricks and mortar and the actual programming. So that's a real big challenge.
Megan, on the pie chart, there was the kind of pinky category, which was education, right? And it was, I think, only 4%. Is that when you go out and you participate in community events and you staff boothing and then some of the programs that Terry used to run also?
Exactly. It's all of that kind of our formal programming. It includes our volunteer program. So, you know, bringing folks in to work on projects, you know, whether that's building a trail or leading hikes or whatever, as well as some of, you know, collateral special pieces that we're using as part of public awareness campaigns and things like that.
Is there demand for more education to go out to the community? Because I find that staffing a booth is a great way to really check in with people and to get them to be enthusiastic about the organization.
Yeah, through the chair. Yes, there is demand for more, and you know, our volunteer coordinator, Gavin Comstock, has been doing a wonderful job of bringing volunteers to those opportunities. We couldn't do it just with staff for sure. And coordinating very closely with the work that Charlotte Gray, our public information officer, is doing on the public education front. Those are working in tandem so that we identify the audiences we want to reach out to more, how we're going to reach them through the communications channels, especially digital media, but then also through the outreach booths at events, what languages we want to put out materials in. They're really well coordinated, and we're building that. But if you have thoughts or specific suggestions about where to go, would love to hear those too.
Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Oh, is there any public comment?
There's none.
There is none. Okay. All right. All right, now we are on to committee meeting summaries. And the Administration and Budget Committee. You want me to take it? I could take it. I'm gonna say it's very similar. We got a great overview of finances, and you know, we got into in-depth and talking. And I thought the presentation there was very good because we got into the economy and how how the markets were handling and how they were investing and trying to protect the money. So it was a good conversation. Anybody want to add on to that or not? That's good. All right, that's good. Okay, next update, Citizens Advisory Committee.
Sorry. I attended the Citizens Advisory Committee on this Monday. I want to say that Lee did a great activity with the members. They were engaged, they were participating. And so the Citizens Advisory Committees, I feel like when I look at them, they're definitely more engaged. So thank you for giving them meaningful work that they can be excited about.
Okay. And we're on to information reports. General Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of items, and if we could, I want to start with Linda Kwong to report on the first item.
Hi, it's Linda Kwong, Deputy Conservation Manager. And so for this first item, so at the southern end of Coyote Valley, right at the border of Morgan Hill, there's been a builder's remedy proposal for 838 homes on 131 acres. And as part of that proposal, to get water to the site, they've reached out to Great Oaks Water, and Great Oaks Water was seeking to expand their service area, which currently ends at Palm Avenue in the middle of Coyote Valley, to extend it another 2.5 miles south through a pipeline to supply water to this development. And so we were concerned about potential growth-inducing impacts that would come with that. And so the process for doing the expansion was that they submitted a advice letter to the Public Utilities Commission, the California Public Utilities Commission, which is more of a ministerial process for that they would just review the process, the project, and then approve the expansion. And so the authority, along with 8 others, submitted a protest letter saying that this was not the appropriate process to follow. And then on May 16th, we received a response from the CPUC saying that they had rejected the advice letter from Great Oaks and suggested that Great Oaks would need to submit a full application to the CPUC and go through the hearing processes. And so that has kind of added more process to their expansion request. And so we will continue to track that and continue to weigh in as appropriate.
Thanks, Linda. Just another good example of, while we are a land conservation agency, we're not an advocacy organization, but we also take public policy very seriously and the impact that decisions can have on public investment, significant public investment that's been made in Coyote Valley to protect land, to protect water resources. Coyote Valley overlays the drinking water supply for the whole region. So to have a water district like Great Oaks putting another big straw into the aquifer for a builder's remedy project. And we were very grateful for Valley Water, City of Morgan Hill, and other entities stepping up. Also very grateful to council for helping craft that letter that went into the CPUC. Just a couple of other things. Just want to thank all of the board members and all the staff that worked so hard on the founders event. I'm sure the board has some things to say about that we had on May 9th. Also, just last week, on May 14th, we had the Together Bay Area Annual Conference in San Francisco. And for the benefit of Director Dominguez, Together Bay Area is somewhat like the Bay Area Council for Conservation. It's got over 80 agencies and organizations from across 10 counties of the San Francisco Bay Area. Conservation, restoration, parks, land trust, tribes, all working in service of climate, land, and equity across the Bay region. So it came together, 400 people came, and many of them from OSA. We don't have that many people working here, but a lot of our staff went to that, so that was pretty cool. Coming up on the 29th of May, OSA and the county are having an agricultural tour with staff from the planning department to reinforce the OSA County partnership around supporting agriculture. So looking forward to that. And then one other CPUC item, OSA staff is having a meeting with the CPUC staff on May 30th to discuss our interests and educate them about what we're calling least conflict siting. So how do you use the best high quality resolution data to help energy planners site energy facilities and battery storage facilities in the least conflict areas to both communities and open space? And so we're looking forward to that meeting. And related to that, we are still hopeful. LS Power and PG&E generally are in agreement about co-location at the Metcalf Energy Facility. There's still some details to be worked out, and we're tracking that really closely and hope we can report back to the board that co-location is what's going to happen there at Metcalf.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening again, directors. I had the pleasure of serving on a couple of panels last week. One on wildfire and home hardening that was co-hosted by Assemblymember Pellerin and San Jose Councilmember George Casey at the Almaden Community Center. And many thanks to Derek for providing a lot of the talking points about all of the fuels management work that we do at the agency on lands that we own or manage, as well as the support that we give to fire suppression crews. So it was just a great opportunity for a very large audience. It was very hot topic, and I was able to communicate some of those messages that Chair Chapman, you were talking about earlier, where you know, we can talk about community resilience all we want, but if we say that we're serving as a buffer to the urban areas from wildfire, they get that, and they appreciate that. The other panel was hosted by the League of Women Voters in Santa Clara County about urban forestry, and was able to talk about the urban ecological resilience, urban ecological planning guide that we worked on several years back with the San Francisco Estuary Institute to talk about incorporation of biodiversity into the urban forest to complement the work that we're doing at the urban edge on our preserves. So that was also really good opportunities to connect with the audience on some of the work that we do. And then just one final reminder, again, Rebecca already mentioned the May 30th dedication for the Bay Area Ridge Trail. For those of you that can attend, love to have you all, if you're able. The guests are to gather at around 9:30, and then the program begins at 10 with docent-led tours starting at 11. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Andrea. Senator Cortese will be speaking at the event from our invitation.
Good evening, Directors. Lee Rusher, Assistant General Manager. With Director Dominguez's appointment this evening, congratulations. I'd like to officially announce an opening on the CAC for a District 6 representative. Caroline and I look forward to working with you to help you to help support your appointment to that position. We'll be in touch to let you know how that works. And our CAC handbook requires a 45-day posting before that slot can be filled. So we will begin that process tomorrow just to open up for applications. Yeah, we will be in touch soon. Thank you. Over here. Circle. Good evening, directors. I just want to remind you that our urban grant program, there's a current cycle out right now. It just opened last week, the 13th. So we're really excited, and please share that with your networks if you need things to forward or new details about it or anything like that. We're happy to provide. And just a quick note that Jennifer Peth and I spoke to Leadership Morgan Hill last week and got lots of interesting questions, and particularly about the grant program. So maybe some more applications coming through that. Okay.
Good evening, directors. On Justina's behalf, I just am thrilled to let you know that the next time you all come together, you get to spend a good amount of time going through our full proposed budget and work plan for the upcoming fiscal year. So it'll be another thrilling night of numbers, but with a lot more song and dance from fellow participants in the process. Pictures. Lots of pictures and lots of great updates from departments about the good things they'll be working on. So we look forward to bringing that to you then.
Okay. Is that it?
I think that's it.
Okay. All right, thank you. And legal counsel.
No report, Madam Chair.
Ready. Board members, let's go Director Kennett.
Megan Greger and I attended the Healthy Morgan Hill event on May 10th and passed out information. We met lots of people, and mostly in the high side of the city, from the mayor, city manager on down. But I think the most interesting person we met and spent an amazing amount of time with on the schedule was the new head pastor of the West Hills Church.
Yeah.
The big board members are going, what?
And very positive. He's new, he wants to just be done with it. It's his attitude, and so we can add to that.
Just that I agree. I thought it was a really positive conversation. It was great to meet him and chat with him out in the community.
Yeah.
So there.
Well, I wanted to say how impressed I was with Founder's Day. It was a crash course for me and everybody there on the entire history of the Open Space Authority, and I, for one, appreciated it. It was wonderful. Which is great to look back and fill in all the gaps and understand how much work has gone into creating the Open Space Authority and keeping it going by grassroots. All the grassroots people that, as an elected official at the time, our job was just to sort of cast key votes there and, show a face, but all the literally spade work that had to go into the Open Space Authority was celebrated by everybody that day. So congratulations to everybody who had took part in that. About a week, on the 10th, I guess I went to the Various Art and Wine Festival. I'm sorry I didn't staff the booth more. I'm just now getting up and running on my email and actually wasn't noticed, but I happen to be there anyway. I've gone there every year for many, many years. The Berryessa Art and Wine Festival, which this year had very little wine and very little art. Very hot and dusty and pretty miserable for everybody, so appreciate the staff who was there. And I've already written to the council member, I'm gonna try to participate on the planning stages next year to make it a little more hospitable to everybody who was there. And finally, I want to thank the staff for holding my hand and helping me along, Caroline, Gina, everybody, Vincent, trying to get me up technically to receive the reports and communicate, and I really appreciate the work. And welcome to our new director.
Good, okay. I want to share also my congratulations on an excellent Founder's Day event. I found myself, I knew my portion of, Coyote Valley and those efforts before I joined the board, but I really appreciated learning the early efforts and how many times you tried and tried and tried and thought, oh my God, persistence. That absolutely. So let's keep that in mind, that we can be very persistent, and in the end, we're going to win. So, it was a great day, and there was a lot of good people there, and a great way to celebrate. One unhappy note, last Wednesday, I participated in the appointment interview for the LAFCO alternate along with Yuriko Kishimoto, who applied for the LAFCO position, and both of us were ran unopposed, and so I am back on LAFCO as an alternate for another 4 years, and she is the LAFCO representative for the special district. So
You didn't even have to vote.
I appreciate Director Alexander coming in and nominating me, and we all went, and then there's anybody opposed? I'm like, no, and okay, meeting over. Whoa. It was a very fast meeting. I think the staff was like, whoa. Anyway, June 2nd is a special district meeting, which I will be chairing. And I think we're gonna have a presentation from the resource districts on some of the work that they're doing. So just to let you know, as chair, they ask me every quarter if there's things that we want to bring forward. So if you have any ideas, let me know and we'll bring it forward. Or we can learn about the interesting cemetery districts. Yeah, that's my report.
No report. I'm sorry I missed Founder's Day. It sounded wonderful. I'm going out of the country this coming Wednesday for a couple of weeks, so I'm just kind of swamped with stuff. But good job on Founder's Day.
I just want to emphasize what an honor it is to be here, and really appreciate the warm welcome from the staff and from the board of directors. And I also want to extend a heartfelt gratitude to the work that the staff has done for an incredible CAC meetings that I've been part of. You could really tell. I think we emphasized it today that the CAC committee is really doing phenomenal work, and they're very engaged, and just really grateful to be part of those conversations as well. So thank you.
All right. Well, with no other items on the agenda, this meeting is adjourned.